In the quiet suburbs of Sacramento, California, a young woman was on the brink of a beautiful new chapter in her life. It was 1970, and 28-year-old Nancy Marie Benalek was a successful court reporter, deeply in love and just 1 month away from her wedding day. But a seemingly insignificant act of kindness for her cat would unlock a door to a nightmare that would haunt her family and investigators for over half a century. This is the story of how a decades-old mystery, one of Sacramento's coldest cases, was finally solved, revealing a killer who was hiding in plain sight. The evening of October 25th, 1970, began like any other happy night for Nancy. She spent it with her fiancé, Ferris Salami, a public defender she'd met at the courthouse where they both worked. After sharing dinner at her apartment, number 17 on Bell Street, Ferris said his goodbyes around 11:30 p.m. Before leaving, he did something Nancy often did. He left the sliding glass door to her balcony slightly ajar, so her beloved cat could come and go as it pleased. Neither of them could have imagined that this small opening would become an invitation for pure evil. The next morning, October 26th, Nancy didn't arrive for work. This was highly uncharacteristic of the punctual and dedicated court reporter. Her colleagues grew worried. A friend sent her son, Jack, to check on Nancy. When he arrived, there was no answer. A sense of dread began to creep in. Jack found the building manager, and together they unlocked the door to apartment 17. What they found inside was a scene of unimaginable horror. In her own bed, Nancy Benalek lay murdered. The bedroom was a brutal tableau of violence. Nancy was found in a pool of her own blood, having been stabbed over 30 times. The sheer ferocity of the attack was chilling. The wounds were so deep that she was nearly decapitated. It was clear she had fought for her life. Defensive wounds covered her hands and arms, a testament to her struggle against her assailant. Investigators meticulously combed the scene. They discovered a trail of blood drops leading from Nancy's bedroom out onto the balcony and down into the parking lot below. This was a crucial clue. The killer had been injured during the struggle and was bleeding. However, the scene yielded no fingerprints. The police theorized that the killer had been cunning, likely wrapping his fingertips in tape to avoid leaving any prints behind. The coroner estimated Nancy's time of death to be sometime between midnight and 3 a.m., just hours after her fiancé had left. The initial investigation was massive. Within the first month, detectives interviewed over 500 people, desperately searching for a lead. But their efforts were fruitless. Nancy was described by everyone as a kind and wonderful person with no known enemies. Her life was full of promise, not conflict. Who would want to harm her so viciously? Detectives looked for patterns, exploring potential links to other local crimes. They noted similarities to the murder of another young woman, Judith Hakari, which had occurred around the same time. Some even threw out the terrifying possibility of a connection to the Zodiac killer, whose reign of terror was still fresh in the public's mind. But there was no concrete evidence to support any of these theories. With the limited forensic technology of the 1970s, every lead dried up. Nancy's case file was eventually shelved, and it grew cold, gathering dust for decades. But Nancy was never forgotten. Years turned into decades, but the Sacramento County Sheriff's Office held on to the evidence, waiting for a day when science could finally give Nancy a voice. That day began to dawn in 2004. Using new techniques, a forensic lab was able to extract a complete DNA profile of the killer from a single drop of blood left at the scene. Hopes were high as they ran the profile through CODIS, the National DNA Database, but there was no match. The killer wasn't in the system. It was another dead end, another wave of disappointment. The case went quiet again until 2019. A new revolutionary tool was making headlines: forensic genetic genealogy. It was the same groundbreaking technique that had famously unmasked the Golden State Killer just a year prior. Inspired by that success, a new generation of detectives reopened Nancy's case. They took the killer's DNA profile and uploaded it to open-source genealogy databases like GEDmatch and FamilyTree DNA, hoping to find a distant relative. This process wasn't a quick fix. It was a painstaking 3-year-long investigation. Genealogists and detectives built out extensive family trees, chasing down distant cousins and faint connections, slowly closing the net around their phantom suspect. Finally, in July of 2022, after 52 long years, they had a name. The DNA puzzle was solved. The killer was Richard John Davis. In 1970, he was a 27-year-old man who lived in the very same apartment complex as Nancy. His apartment, number 23, was just across the pool from hers. He had been there all along, an anonymous neighbor. The evidence was undeniable. His blood, left at the scene as he fled, was a perfect match to the DNA profile. With his identity confirmed, the horrifying details of that night snapped into focus. This wasn't a random attack. Davis had likely watched Nancy. He knew her routine. The police believe he came prepared, covering his fingers with tape before scaling the balcony and slipping through the slightly open door. The motive will never be known for sure, but investigators speculate it was a dark obsession. Perhaps he was infatuated from afar, and upon learning of her impending marriage, was consumed by a jealous rage. We will never hear his confession or see him stand trial. Richard John Davis died in 1997 due to complications from alcoholism, cheating justice by 25 years. For Nancy's family, the news brought a complex mix of emotions, grief, anger, but also profound relief. After living with half a century of unanswered questions, they finally had the truth. Nancy's surviving sister, Linda Cox, shared her feelings, saying, "So many times, my husband Tom and I said Nancy would have loved our ranch, our animals, and the open land. We've missed sharing our children and grandchildren with her." The solving of the case, she explained, finally closed a painful 50-year chapter of uncertainty. The officials who worked tirelessly on the case also shared in that sense of closure. Sacramento District Attorney Anne Marie Schubert, a pioneer in using genetic genealogy, emphasized that even after all this time, Nancy was never forgotten and that her case remained a priority. Detective Mickey Lynx, who was instrumental in the final push, acknowledged the bittersweet nature of the resolution. He said, "Sadly, there won't be legal justice, but perhaps there will be higher justice." Though Richard Davis will never face a judge or jury, the solving of Nancy Benelak's murder is a powerful testament to the unwavering dedication of law enforcement and the incredible power of science. It proves that even after 5 decades, truth can prevail and a name can be given to the monster in the dark. Nancy S. story is a reminder that behind every cold case file is a human being who was loved, who had dreams, and who deserves to be remembered. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story as compelling as we did, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more deep dives into fascinating cases. We'll see you in the next one.